we get emotional even talking about it together as a family, how we first started with our pop-up tent. We were talking about different ideas in our, in our home, and will this really work? Are people going to like this? Mom loves cooking. Dad's always loved the kitchen. I wanted to be that, pastry chef that never really came to be. So I had a passion for food, and it's such a beautiful way to express love through what you create on a dish for people. Tying in the hospitality end of it too. It's sharing and being able to welcome strangers, into an environment that makes them feel welcomed.
Yeah.
It's very rewarding and fulfilling when you have those regulars that come in and they share stories of the days that they've had or what they've experienced. And the one thing they want to do is just escape to Chef de Crêpe, to this little Parisian cafe that we've created. Because life is hard. And if we're able to provide someone with an outlet for a little moment with their loved one so they can embrace just a few minutes over good Italian coffee, and a good crepe, it's wonderful.
Welcome back to the Lead Lamp Podcast. This week we have Rosina Marie from Chef de Crêpe in Camp Hill. So thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah,
this one's new to me
me
because this is all brand new to me. I've had crepes, but I've not been to your restaurant, unfortunately. But I will after this.
I will be expecting you.
It's almost lunchtime too, so
yes.
I'm gonna get hungry talking about food. But thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So let's share a little bit about, we'll get into crepes, but let's share a little bit about your background.
Sure.
And just kind of how you got into doing what you're doing, where you grew up, just a little bit about you.
So I'm originally from Miami, Florida.
Okay.
I went to the University of Central Florida in Orlando, worked at Disney World during my time in college.
Okay.
So I got my degree in hospitality management. I knew hospitality was what I wanted to do, but I was really focused on hotels.
Okay.
So once after I graduated, I moved to Nashville for a year. And throughout this year, my parents had already moved to the area because my little brother went to Messiah.
Oh, okay.
So
that's like my backyard.
Yeah,
so
there
I grew
you
up
go.
in Grantham, yeah.
Yep. So I was missing my family, and my parents were already like, well, a crepe place. I'm like, I'm in Nashville. I'm super busy. I don't know how we can make this work out.
Right.
I lasted about a year in Nashville, moved back over here, and that's when the idea of my mom and dad just saying, we need to do something with crepes. And I kept saying, absolutely not.
Yeah, like of all things.
Of all things.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into the food industry. Working in hotels, I can see how the food and beverage side of it was just so draining and just physically exhausting and emotionally too.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So I wasn't very interested in it. And I then, of course, I can't say no to my parents. So I just said yes.
Yeah.
And I was working at Hershey Park at the time in retail. And we got a pop-up tent. So every now and then we would just go to the Hershey Vineyard and other local vineyards and just make crepes. It was me, my mom, my dad, and my brother.
Real quick, should I be calling them crepes from now on officially? Okay.
Crepes, but crepes, yes.
Okay.
Crepes is totally fine.
Yeah. Not crepes.
Not crepes.
Okay, well, I've been corrected.
You're
so
good.
I won't go back
You're
and
good.
fix it, but we'll call it crepes.
Yes.
All right.
You got it.
I'll get it
You
right.
got it.
All right. Back on track.
No worries. So we started doing that every now and then. We went to the Jazz Festival in Harrisburg as well with our little tent. And that's when people were starting to ask, do you have a location? Do you have a food truck? My parents were just so excited. And I'm over here already working my full time at Hershey Park. And I'm like,
you're burning the candle at both ends.
yes.
Trying to.
It's like, I can't do this. Just moved to the area. Didn't have time really for a social life because I was working so much. So I was worried about really focusing on Chef de Crêpe because I knew it was just going to be, that was a sacrifice that I would have to make. But yeah, then COVID happened. Left my job at Hershey Park. And that's when my parents were like, let's just be mobile because we saw all these other food trucks going to all these neighborhoods.
That was the thing.
Yes. Yeah. And I was like, oh, these people with these crepes again. Why are my parents so into this? And they just kept saying, you know, Rosina Marie, you love France, you speak French, you just have this passion for this culture. Because we're not French.
Okay.
We are Hispanic with Italian roots. So French, we're not. I wish I was, but no. I appreciate the culture and I love the people and the food and the history. So they knew how passionate I was for it. So they kept just believing that I could bring something to the table along with their help. So they got a concession trailer, wrapped it up. We called him Jean Pierre, and we went mobile.
Okay, that was the original name.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, of the truck.
Gotcha.
We just named the truck Jean Pierre.
Oh, that was a fun name.
Yeah, Okay. We have to name things.
Yeah, that's fine. That makes it more fun, though.
Exactly.
I think the other guests we had on that had the ice cream truck, they also named their truck. Like
it's everyone, like a member of the family.
We've had a few different mobile food vendors that all end up naming their vehicles. It's just funny.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not unique to you, to them. It's just funny that like that's a pattern.
Yeah, it truly is like a family member that you're bringing on.
We spend so much time, maintaining them, taking care of them, driving around.
So much time. So. I mean, my parents adore Jean Pierre. I wasn't a fan, I'll be very honest. We didn't get along very well.
Gotcha.
It's tough with the food truck.
Yeah.
And during the summers, just the heat. And it's
a love-hate relationship.
It really is.
With a food truck, I'm sure.
It really is. But you can make great profit. I mean, you can go to places and be there for just a couple hours and leave just amazed with what you were able to make. Not having to pay rent. You just had to maybe just pay to be there for a little bit. And
lower overhead.
Yeah.
There's some maintenance costs, but
yeah.
And
it was just me and my parents. So we didn't really have other employees at the time. So.
Right. Okay.
So of course we got the food truck. Now everyone's asking, what about a location? And that's when my parents drove by a location right across from Ritter's in Mechanicsburg on Main Street, right on the corner next to Gingerbread Man. It was an abandoned Subway, which is empty.
I know exactly where you're talking about.
And my parents showed me pictures. Like, hey, rent is super cheap because, I mean, we're in the midst of COVID. I was like, well, one, how are we going to open a business during a pandemic? And it seems to only be getting worse. And two, I'm terrified. You know, my parents, I got to give it to them. They are such risk takers. So if it wasn't for them, I don't think that I would be taking the risk that I took.
You'd still be in Jean Pierre.
Yes. Yeah. So we then opened our location December of 2020.
All right.
And the state shut down again for COVID.
Yeah, I was going to say, right in the middle of another like swell that they were getting. Yeah.
And it's difficult because I personally believe that crepes are to be enjoyed fresh. So the fact that we had to do takeout, I was so worried.
It was like killing you inside.
So worried. I was like, oh my goodness, is it the freshness? I mean, how long are these people going to wait to get home to eat this? And if they reheat it and whatever. People loved it. And the community really, we are so humbled by the support that we were shown in Mechanicsburg. And we were there for 2 years. And we knew we had to outgrow it. I think the first month that we were in Mechanicsburg, we knew we couldn't do it. Just us three and in this location. Yeah. It was too much.
You were already like feeling confined, I'm sure.
Yes.
In what you had. Because that was the old, I know exactly what the old Subway was. It wasn't a big location.
No.
Okay.
No.
So right away, you're already kind of claustrophobic and you're like, if we go anywhere with this, an inch, any direction, we're going to bust at the seams. We got to get out of here. Okay. And
so it was during that time as well. I mean, I think if you were able to open anything during COVID.
It was miraculous. Yeah. Just launching anything during COVID was.
It was insane.
Yeah.
The amount of challenges that we had to face and was like nothing I've ever experienced before. So yeah, I mean, 2 years passed. I will be honest, those 2 years in Mechanicsburg was probably the hardest for my family and I. It's difficult running a business, having to deal with different requests and trying to always deliver new things. It was a struggle for me as the middle child people pleaser as well to take any feedback or constructive criticism or if somebody wasn't happy with something. To me, it was like my whole life was crumbling apart because I opened this with my parents. So it felt like this was my life and this was it. And if it didn't work out. What was I going to do? What were my parents going to do? What were they going to think of me? I want to make them proud one day.
Right. And that's all up here. Like that's not most other people on the outside of, your little echo chamber were probably not even remotely thinking that.
No.
Yeah.
So those were a tough 2 years, and also just adapting with the location because we knew we had to outgrow it was difficult.
It's probably tough too, knowing that your time there is limited. Like you're not going to invest a bunch into that property.
And that we didn't want to.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's gotta be tough to know you have to go there, but you don't want to be there or you can't stay there.
Yes. And yet at the same time, how can we still provide quality in everything that we do in a location that we knew, again, we weren't going to be there very long for.
So then how did you make the move from Mechanicsburg to Camp Hill?
We just found a great spot on Market Street, and it was perfect. It had a little deck outside. I always had a vision for a coffee bar. I really wanted to provide a Parisian experience, more of a European style bar for guests here. And it used to be an old hair salon, or the Wigwam, is where our location was. So there were a bunch of mirrors that were already up. Okay. And I said, this is perfect. Just like in Europe, you have your bar and then the mirrors and you have drinks right along the mirrored wall. So when I saw that location, I knew that was it. And my dad just is so creative. He was able to just lay everything out. This is where the kitchen's going to be. We're going to have to just dig out our.
You can envision that.
Everything.
So I want to back that up just a little bit.
Yes.
To like what your inspiration was. Did you do a bunch of traveling to learn how to, there's an art with this too. Yeah. So it's not just like, I'm not just making sandwiches. Yeah. Like no offense to anyone out there that has a sandwich business, but it's I probably could make crepes, but there is an art to it, and there is an art to making sandwiches. So just say that. But I've got, so what was involved with your research process of it? Cause you seem like you're also, it's gotta be perfect. They're a bit of a perfectionist. So you want to deliver something that is not just that tastes good, but probably has a high quality as far as a crepe.
Yes. And as authentic as possible, I would say. So as far as my inspiration for this, I got to give it to my mom. She forced me to learn French when I was 9 years old. Okay. Couldn't understand why I needed to learn French.
Why? Yeah.
Didn't find it necessary. I remember we went to France with my French teacher at the time, and I wasn't paying attention for the past year in my classes. So I just went to have a good old time.
Like, heck yeah, we're traveling somewhere new.
Yep. And my mom just told me, Rosina Marie, come on, you have an opportunity to learn. You're young, learn a language, connect with other people from different cultures. And it hit me. I do love connecting with people. And if I'm able to speak another language and connect with someone, that's not my native language, what a beautiful thing to do. I fell in love with France too, also just being there, the food, the people, their way of life, the language as well. It's so chic, it's so romantic, it's so mysterious, but yet sophisticated. I fell in love with it. And I wanted to, throughout my high school years, to move to Paris, be a Latina Julia child, go to pastry school at Le Cordon Bleu. And, life has other plans for you sometimes.
Your high school dreams usually are maybe a little far-fetched sometimes.
It was very far-fetched.
But you learn,
Yes.
That's the way you navigate through. And when you're a teenager, it's your reality is not always grounded in what is possible. Yeah. Not that it's wrong to dream, though.
No, not at all. And it's crazy looking back now, because I know that younger version of myself would have been like, well, this is actually amazing. Okay, you're not living in Paris, but you've been to France plenty of times. My best friend is French. I'm able to take things home and learn and grow and just be inspired and get creative with different recipes and dishes. And that to me is just so fulfilling to be able to share with other people as well when I am able to do that here. Yeah. So it means, it's great.
Nice. So you did some traveling, obviously, to figure out kind of what you wanted. When you were opening either location, or even when you were getting into the food trucks, did you travel back, or do you travel back frequently or occasionally to do any kind of like research or to learn from anything, or you kind of have like a set, like at this point, what you're doing?
Yes. So I think now I feel very confident to say I know what it is that I'm doing.
Okay.
But at first, I remember calling my best friend Sophie. I'm like, Sophie, is this accurate? I want to be as authentic as possible. At the end of the day, I have to also cater to my demographic here.
Yeah.
We all have different palates, different taste buds. These are two different cultures that I'm trying to mesh together while staying as creative and authentic as possible. So that was a little bit of a challenge, but also that's also how I grew and was able to understand my clientele and what it is that makes me successful.
I feel like a lot of international cuisine, and this isn't just in America. I mean, I'm not like a world traveler, but I feel like there is something that you do need to do to Americanize it in a way.
A tad.
And that's not just for here. That's any country. Like, if you're going to a country in Asia,
you have to adapt.
And you're making crepes in Asia or an Asian country, you're going to have to do something that resonates with them.
Correct.
Because if it's like the true French or any international food, there's going to be, you're narrowing your audience severely if it's like 100% the way it is.
I agree.
But then that also allows you to be more creative with what you're doing.
So, absolutely.
A little bit more wild with recipes, I'm sure. Yeah.
Innovative, I like to say.
Yeah, innovative. Definitely. That's better.
Yeah.
So the Camp Hill location's open.
Yes.
Now we're kind of going through the timeline, but I'm jumping around a little. Yeah. You have your Camp Hill location open. When did you guys officially launch your Camp Hill spot?
March 8th. It was 2 years ago.
Okay.
Already, yeah.
Dang. So yeah, you just passed your 2-year anniversary.
Just passed our 2-year anniversary.
That's wild.
It is. Time flies.
And what do you think was, other than COVID, because I think everyone's business, everyone that's been on here has that common theme of like, that was like a big struggle for multiple reasons. But what was another kind of learning experience you had through opening any of the three, from the food truck to the Mechanicsburg spot to Camp Hill? Just something you didn't foresee that you're like, damn, that was a struggle, but look what we did out of it.
I would say finding a good team, a good solid team, because in Mechanicsburg, we might have just had a couple employees and it was really just my parents and I.
Yeah. And then help here and there.
Right. Right. Now that we are expanding, it was very overwhelming. Training, trusting, not micromanaging, but leading and explaining what my standards and expectations are, correcting it. That I think was, and even just finding people at this point, especially for the kitchen. Yeah.
And the food industry can be tough to staff.
Yes.
Especially when you're being particular with this isn't like a chain restaurant. You have a very specific thing that you're trying to do, and you're trying to train these people to do that. And I'm sure they weren't all experts on crepes. They were from different backgrounds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that was definitely the most challenging. I think the first year and a half, so still very recently, I think we can breathe a little bit more, my parents and I. But it was hard. Just the kitchen environment as well can be very aggressive. And I'm a very passionate, somewhat emotional woman. And I care so much for this business that it was very hard to be able to manage my emotions, to understand that this passion is, not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
But of course, I need to get my point across. And I have a lot of expectations. And I think you shouldn't be ever ashamed for having those expectations and those standards, because if you know that you're doing something that's working, then you just want to stick with it.
Yeah. So, why rewrite it if it's working?
Yeah.
But then, you were talking about how kitchens can be aggressive. I'm sure there was some tailoring of your expectations to what would reasonably work with the staff that's going to be in the kitchen.
Yes.
And, that is a different world. People go to a restaurant and they don't really notice.
It's rough.
Yeah.
It's rough.
And I don't think people see that all the time, especially when I was younger, I grew up in the food industry. My parents my grandfather had some delis, things like that. And one was a restaurant style location. but like being around there's a front end you see, and then there's what's happening in the kitchen. And a lot of people aren't exposed to what goes on, like what it's like in the kitchen. And it's wild. It's not like cooking at home.
No, it's not.
But, it's interesting, but I'm sure again, like you have your core crew now, sounds like, and it is rewarding now that you have a staff they know how
they understand as
things
well.
are supposed to be.
Yes. And it's to finding people that you're able to mold.
And they're willing to learn.
Willing to learn, absolutely. Because when they're not, no one has time for that.
Yeah, and you probably can tell pretty quick. Like
at this point, it's just this little gut feeling, and I'm like, well, I feel like I'm wasting my time, your time, so let's just
Okay. So now there are some growing pains. It sounds like not bad ones, but good. Like right now, you said you mentioned that you're expanding. Is that a current thing that you're expanding, or is it you're just looking to continually grow?
I do look to continue to grow the business in the next couple of years.
Right now, we're still here. Hunkered down at Camp Hill.
Yeah, we're still in Camp Hill, but I do have a lot of big visions and dreams for this business. Hopefully, mom and dad can really rest one day. Yeah. They love the business too. I mean, it's their baby. Yeah, it's a family member at this point. It's our life.
I think it's probably even harder too for older people working, and I don't mean that in like a
you guys are not
in a bad way,
okay.
But like
maybe no.
But just in general, like if you've created something at any age, even if you created it later in life, it's hard to know when to put that down
and to let it go.
Yeah, yes. And it's like okay, it's time, and this is a healthy thing for you to be able to retire from.
Absolutely.
But there's still that passion of like, no, but this is part of my, like, I helped build this.
Absolutely.
That's got to be tough.
It is.
Especially with parents.
It is. And they've put so much sweat and tears into this. And they're one of the most hardworking people that I know. I think I've learned so much from them. And we've helped each other. We've complemented each other. They come from a generation too where work is a success. Yeah. And then I'm like, well, no, I need to rest. I need to take care of myself physically, mentally. This 2-week stretch of working nonstop, it gets to me, and I have to be able to deal with that. So I think we complemented each other in ways where we can just have more of a balance in life. And it just took years, but
I noticed that also. So like my view of success is not necessarily, like you said, working yourself to the bone, but it's interesting, like different generations' view of what success was. So, 20, 30, 40 years ago, the version of success was often, well, I spent 50 years working for so-and-so, and then I retired and I got my pension, but I worked myself to the bone. Right. My view of it at my age is, I have kids, got my wife. It's, I want to put some stuff away and be able to retire comfortably someday, but I also don't want to be so burnt out when I get to the end.
Right. You want a good quality.
Right. I want to enjoy it now too.
Of course.
And
you deserve to. Absolutely.
And it's different. And it's also healthy to like focus on your family or yourself for a little bit and then still go back to work. It's still there.
Absolutely.
But it's interesting you brought that up, that like there are a couple different generations and different trains of thought with what work and success looks like. Yes. And you can balance it.
Absolutely, you can. But I think to everything in life you can balance. It's really just knowing how. It's seeing it's changing your perspective sometimes, maybe listening to hard truths that you need to listen to, and then making those changes, because we all have a choice to make. And I think when running a business, you really have to look in the mirror and say, okay, what do I need to just change? What do I need to better? I did look at my life a couple years ago and I got scared because I was just working and health issues arise, life happens, and life is so short that it is important to take care of yourself and be there with your family. So absolutely.
Yeah. Now, that got a little bit like philosophical there, but no, but this is good. I want to get back on the crepes though. So let's explain to someone doesn't have any idea what a crepe is, anything, they're like, what are they talking about? I don't even know what this is. What is this kind of, what is this cuisine, I guess? So explain just what it is and what you do, like the bare bones.
So I've heard someone describe crepes as a Mexican taco burrito, which I can see.
I probably wouldn't have said it that way, but okay.
It was cute.
Yeah.
But essentially a crepe is a very thin pancake.
Okay.
There's different types of crepes. You have galettes, which are made with Saint-Sarrafin farine, which is buckwheat.
Okay.
And those are traditionally square. You can also, but they're more for savory dishes.
Okay.
And then you have crepes with all-purpose flour that are more for sweets and desserts.
That's like your, don't get offended by this, but that's like your traditional like Bisquick pancake mix. Not that, but it's a more general flour.
A for effort. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
I didn't mean to equate to what you're doing to Bisquick.
You're okay.
But I think of it that way.
Exactly.
Like one's more tailored towards, like you said, sweets.
Yes.
And the other one seems like it's a more, you said
savory. Salty. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So we offer galettes, which we started offering in this location in Camp Hill.
Okay.
We also offer other savory crepes that are not with the buckwheat. So that's where we're different. And so because in France, if you're going to make a crepe with something sweet, you're going to add some sugar to the batter.
Okay.
So we really tried to adapt, and we're not going to add sugar to a batter and make it a savory crepe and add London broil and onions and cheese to it.
Okay.
So we have different types of batters that we do for different types of things.
Okay.
Galettes being one of them, savory, sweets, and we do like breakfast crepes too, so we can add scrambled eggs inside, cheese, honey ham, fresh spinach, it's bacon. They're good. They're hearty.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my best friend Sophie, she's looked at our menu and she's like, this is actually very interesting in her accent. I gotta applaud her. I love it. She's admitted she probably wouldn't try some of the things. I go, but again, you have to realize where I'm living.
Different part of the world.
Correct.
Yeah.
But she's just so amazed to how creative we have come to be, whether it's putting a cheesecake in an actual crepe with strawberries, banana, and drizzling Nutella over it.
Okay.
As that cheesecake melts, it's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
So is it viewed upon, like, especially with your friend, like, oh, that's creative, but you're still kind of keeping the soul of the crepe in it, so it's cool? Or is that sometimes are there purists that are like, no, what are you doing? Like but who cares about them? Like, who cares what they think?
It's funny you mentioned, because I have had some French people come in. Mm-hmm. Now, I will say, when a French person likes my food, I'm overjoyed.
Yeah.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much. I will continue to do this. Mm-hmm. But I see there's a pattern. They will normally stick to a crepe that's more traditional. They're not going to try something like our Mexi with guacamole, sour cream, and pico de gallo. They're going to stick with maybe our smoked salmon or a triple delight, which is just very classic, bananas, strawberries, and Nutella.
Okay. So you're serving one, you're still on your menu, you're still serving traditional.
Yes.
The way they would get it back home or whatever. But then you have a variety of a little bit more non-traditional crepes. Okay.
Yes. And those non-traditional crepes too, we try to tell a story with our dishes. So they are inspired by either family trips, vacations, bringing different flavors and items back from that country or that region and making it into a crepe. It's a unique way to tell a story. No,
that's awesome. And you're not adding it to, like, a crepe is not a medium that you're going to add like guacamole or peppers or eggs to, that is so outlandish that you're like, those two things don't go together. Mm-hmm. It's probably very easy to get creative with what you can put in one.
You have a good canvas to be able to.
Yeah, it's a better canvas, not medium, but you know what I meant.
Yeah, you do. It's fun. And that's what I enjoy most about it, is creating. You
do a lot of experimenting with, like, when you're in the kitchen and you're messing around with them, you're like, I'm going to try this. Yeah. And you get a bunch of ingredients and you make something new, and you're either like, this is great, or you're like, yes, I don't know about that.
Yes, we're constantly experimenting, constantly trying to stay creative. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one thing that I picked up at Disney. They taught us a lot about the history of Walt Disney. Uh-huh. And he was just constantly creating and innovating. And that inspires me. You just got to keep going, Mm-hmm. We have so much competition too as small businesses. What can make you stand out? Mm-hmm. What makes you unique to the area?
The choices of where someone's going. Now, you're breakfast and brunch. right?
Yes. So creperie, brunchery is how we've rebranded moving into Camp Hill.
Okay. But even still, those two meals, there's a lot of competition.
Yes.
In the area, not necessarily crepes, but you're competing with everything from the Dunkins all the way down to another small business.
Absolutely.
Now there's probably friendlier competition with some of the small businesses because there is a large amount of support. And I'm not in the food truck. We're not into food trucks, but we saw a lot of that with those restaurants supporting each other 5 years ago. But still, like, that's not as much of a bad competition as, you know, the Starbucks comes in across the street and then now they're going over there to get a pastry and a coffee and then they're driving past your location. But there's a lot of that in our area. So
there is. I'm
sure you notice it more too when you're like, dang it, there's another like chain coming in.
Yes. And healthy competition's good.
Yeah.
I think it keeps you on your toes. It keeps you to force yourself to, again, stay creative and innovative. And how do you stay unique? But I think that's what we experienced when we moved to the Camp Hill area, really understanding what was around us, how we can be different. And it's beautiful too, because I know anybody can go to Starbucks and get a pastry and a coffee. Right. But there is just something different about that small business, like family owned feel that a lot of people are like, I don't really go to the Starbucks because it's a different feeling. It's a different ambiance and atmosphere. Right. And
they do their job of customer service.
Absolutely. Yeah. They do it all.
And I'm not picking on one brand in particular, but oftentimes those brands, even though the customer service is acceptable, we'll just say it's acceptable, they're not doing it where it feels like there was like some love put into
it's the heart in
what you're getting delivered.
Absolutely.
You know, they're not doing, most of the time, they're not doing anything wrong, but it's like they're missing an extra step. So it's a little bit, it's like friendly, but a little cold.
Sure, not as personalized.
Right. And you don't get to meet, when you go to a smaller place and you get to meet the team and whoever's working there, the owners, the kitchen staff, whatever, there is, after a while, a relationship forged with them and you're like,
yes,
you begin to embrace that personality of that restaurant or that small shop. And you almost feel like you're a part of it then.
Yes.
And then that's tough. It's tough for a small business to adapt, to embrace and make part of their culture, but it's even harder. And that's where you have an advantage. It's harder to do for bigger brands that come into an area versus a smaller shop like yours.
And I think that would be if I were to grow the business and expand, that I always hear, well, when you expand, you lose quality, you lose something. That's a fear of mine because I truly wouldn't want to lose anything if it were to one day, open up another location so
the quality control would be, you'd have to have an eye on it all the time. But now I will say the cool thing about doing that is you have the opportunity to still make sure that your branding and your service and everything is within your standard, but inevitably it's going to adopt its own like feel.
Yes.
Which will be cool to watch because
yes,
you almost don't want them to be too exact because it is kind of neat to be like, well, if you go to that one, because then your customers see that too and they're like, well, if you drive 15 miles the other way, it's the same food, but man, over there so and so does this one with that. And it'll, when you get to that point, it'll be cool to see how they still meet your standard of what you want, but they both have their own personality,
their own little vibe.
Yeah, because that'll happen inevitably. Two different teams are going to have,
of course, different people. Will be there, absolutely.
But that'll be interesting.
Well, if cross that bridge,
maybe when you get to that point, you come back on and let me know how that changed.
Yes.
But no, I think it's great. What do you think the most rewarding part, just of going through it all the way from so real quick before I ask that, did your parents have a background in food industry or not? This was all, you're just going to jump into the deep end?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So then now I know that. What do you think was the most rewarding experience going from, hotel hospitality to just kind of like, all right, well, we're going to just dive in and figure it out now that you're through kind of like that startup phase?
We get emotional even talking about it together as a family, how we first started with our pop-up tent. We were talking about different ideas in our, in our home, and will this really work? Are people going to like this? Mom loves cooking. Dad's always loved the kitchen. I wanted to be that, pastry chef that never really came to be. So I had a passion for food, and it's such a beautiful way to express love through what you create on a dish for people. Tying in the hospitality end of it too. It's sharing and being able to welcome strangers, into an environment that makes them feel welcomed.
Yeah.
It's very rewarding and fulfilling when you have those regulars that come in and they share stories of the days that they've had or what they've experienced. And the one thing they want to do is just escape to Chef de Crêpe, to this little Parisian cafe that we've created. Because life is hard. And if we're able to provide someone with an outlet for a little moment with their loved one so they can embrace just a few minutes over good Italian coffee, and a good crepe, it's wonderful. And truly, sometimes I don't know how I'm here, because even a year ago, I didn't think that we would be here. When you have a business, you have very high highs and very low lows. And my low lows kept on going. And that's what life does. It's like, it's going to keep knocking you down. It's how many times you're going to pick yourself up and just say, no, I'm going to fight this. We're going to get through it. It's incredibly difficult. The stress, the anxiety, the constantness of the business can really overwhelm you. But again, I have my parents to thank, because they've been such a help. And we've really just worked as a puzzle, like puzzle pieces to this big masterpiece.
No, that's awesome. And it's neat that you can do it with your parents.
Yeah.
And share that with them. Because, and I'm sure there's moments too where you're like, oh, my parents, I'm just going to.
You can only imagine.
But and I came from family businesses, so I've seen both sides of it.
Yeah.
But at the end, it's still like, look what we built together. And that's really awesome.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a journey that, until you do it, people understand. Like they think they know, but until you do that, people don't understand, the lumps and bruises you take along the way.
Yes.
While building that, especially in a family business where there's like, there's some moments where you kind of have some come to Jesus moments with each other.
Absolutely. I mean, it's intense.
But, it is rewarding when you can stick it out and then see the other side of it. So it's nice to hear that you said like you feel like you're starting to see the light through the other side of that too, which is good.
And hopefully some encouragement for anyone who has a family business or just a business overall. I was listening to a podcast and they're saying, don't envy what someone has as far as their success, because you don't know what they sacrificed. And I truly understood. Like it's true. We all have different journeys and stories and struggles of how we got to where we are. I don't envy anyone's. After experiencing the lowest lows, and again, just a family dynamic, and family is family. And when you work with them, and that hindrance too during that work can be incredibly intense. Sometimes you ask yourself, is this worth it? Yeah. Is this business worth it?
Yeah, you got to do a gut check.
So, yeah.
And that same advice, I think, not just professionally, but just in general in life, like I would not compare myself to what you've done or what those guys have done. Like, it's just different. You have your own walk of life, and whether it's for what you're doing to compare professionally or personally, it's not worth it, because we're never going to have the same path.
No.
But
as long as you embrace it, I think it's important.
All right, let's kind of wrap up. We'll do a full circle. Talk about what is going on now at Chef de Crêpe. So you have anything that like new that you want to talk about, or anything just in general? Just kind of give a little bit of a plug of like what you got going on now.
Well, spring is coming, so we love to do seasonal menus. So
and you have
launched.
Do you have the deck? You said
yes. Today. We opened the umbrellas. Okay. We're like, we hope people can sit outside.
Perfect. So
birds
now
are chirping.
Yesterday would have been.
Oh, it would have been perfect.
It's okay though.
It was our prep day.
We'll get there.
Yes.
We'll get there.
Yes.
So, anyways, what's happening now? You're kind of opening up for spring.
Yes.
Getting ready.
New menu.
Okay.
We have. We're going to be introducing mocktails.
Oh.
So we're BYOB. We have a freshly squeezed orange juice machine that a lot of ladies will like to bring their Prosecco or their champagne, make mimosas at their table. We want to also introduce mocktails and other like healthy alternative to promote this natural relaxation.
Yeah.
It's fun and it's cute and everyone can have it.
Yeah.
So we are very seasonal. So our spring menu just came out, which is, I would describe this menu as a very dainty, elegant, and sophisticated menu.
Okay.
So check it out.
Is your spring menu different year over year too? Like you're going to freshen it up?
We might have 1 or 2 items that are the same.
You have your staples.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'll either tweak those staples as well to see maybe, from feedback and things like that, like you should add this or take away this. But then we'll always create something new.
Nice.
And I will also be hosting my first women's empowerment event in August, along with the creperie, to be able to raise money for kids who have parents incarcerated, so they are able to get Christmas gifts from them this season.
That'll be awesome.
So a way to empower women in business, in life, students, mothers, daughters, and give back as well to those families that are vulnerable and in need.
Yeah, that's often probably overlooked.
Yes.
It's overlooked, but it's not a small part of society. Like there's a lot of people that need that assistance.
There's, I think, a stigma behind incarceration and, someone who is in that situation.
Yeah, they still could be fantastic parents. It
Absolutely.
Just made some bad choices or whatever. And,
kids have to suffer through it and it's not their fault. And
often you forget about the other side of the family. You just see, what that person did, but not the wife or the spouse or the child. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. So, that'll be very rewarding to see kind of how that comes to fruition too.
It's humbling because the more that time passes with this business, it's really asking myself, well, what can I do to give back? Right. What are different causes? You
probably see, like, it sounds like you're doing that. Like you're seeing what the return is for you personally and your family, but then there is a limit to where you're like, okay, well, this is great. We're starting to do better. But then, like, how can I turn that into something else to help other people? Every business kind of, I feel like, hits that threshold when you talk with them where they're like, we're covered, we're good. Everyone always wants to add more. But at some point, you do need to turn it around and give back. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I agree.
That's a great way to give back, too. So, and it's not something that's overdone, which probably needs more attention.
Yes.
That's great.
Very excited.
Awesome. Well, you got a spring menu coming out. I'm hungry now because
let's go.
I've talked about food the whole time, but I will definitely be stopping down. Maybe the team will come down. We'll come or get an order and we'll try a variety of different crepes.
And not just crepes. I mean, we have other brunch dishes too.
I'm excited for coffee. Like I'm a coffee guy, so I will.
You'll be honest with me.
I love coffee, but I'm not a snob. I'm not a coffee snob.
Okay.
So like I will drink Maxwell House or Folgers and be happy with it.
Good.
But then I will drink good quality. No, I'm just saying like I love all coffee.
Yeah.
Black coffee, nothing in it, but I do love all coffee. So I'm going to have to come down and get at least a cup of coffee.
Absolutely.
So, well, awesome. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. If anyone's interested in visiting, we'll put the links in the show notes. Everything will be in there. We'll share it on social. That way, anyone that is checking your show out can find your location and come down and get some crepes or any of the things else on your menu. Check out the spring menu, the whole deal.
Thank you so much. This was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.